Once upon a time in the vast continent of Africa, there was a man whose entrepreneurial spirit knew no bounds. Aliko Dangote, a name that resonates with success and ambition. With a net worth reaching astronomical heights, he became Africa's richest man, but his story didn't end there. No, it was just the beginning. Amidst his remarkable achievements, Nigeria, the country which he comes from, though the economic powerhouse of Africa, faced a critical challenge in its oil industry. The nation struggled to meet the energy demand of its own people. To tell you how serious this problem is, Nigeria is the biggest crude oil exporter in Africa, but relies heavily on imported petroleum products, which are a byproduct of crude oil to fuel its economy. So this was a problem that needed a solution that would change the game for Nigeria and the entire continent. In this backdrop of dependence, Aliko Dangote envisioned a revolutionary project, a dream that would rewrite the narrative for Nigeria's energy landscape. And so the stage was set for the birth of a grand undertaking, a project that would not only provide hope but also have a far-reaching implication for the entire African continent, the Aliko Dangote Refinery. In this video, we will do a breakdown of the Aliko Dangote Refinery. We will cover how the Aliko Dangote Refinery was bettered, how Aliko Dangote built his wealth, how he was able to source the money to build this refinery, the economic impact of the refinery on Africa, and finally, in this video, we will answer the big question many Nigerians and Africa want to know, which is, will this refinery reduce the cost of fuel in Nigeria and Africa as a whole? Well, let's find out. Don't forget to smash the like button so that this video can be recommended to more people. Subscribe to the channel if you're interested in Afrocentric business and finance content. And without much talk, let's dive right into today's video. Let's go. So the idea of the Dangote Refinery all began in 2013 when Aliko Dangote himself announced that he would be building a refinery in Ondo State, Nigeria.
In the news 2 days ago, we signed with some commercial banks building a refinery of petrochemicals and fertilizer.
However, due to a lack of political will by the then Ondo State government, the project was moved to Lagos State, the trade center of Nigeria, which also had some oil. Construction of the refinery officially began in 2016, and according to Dangote, the refinery was supposed to be finished in 2018, making it the fastest built refinery in history. But due to unforeseen circumstances, that timeline elapsed, and the refinery was still not finished. Now, before we delve deeper into the details of the Dangote Refinery project, I want us to take a step backward and explore how Aliko Dangote, the man behind this ambitious endeavor, accumulated the wealth, which in turn gave him the leverage to build the biggest refinery in sub-Saharan Africa. Aliko Dangote started his business career trading cement and commodities like rice, sugar, and flour. But unlike many African entrepreneurs who find it difficult to raise money from the banks or even family and friends to start their business, Dangote found it much more easier as he was able to secure a loan of $3,000 from his wealthy uncle back in 1977 to start his business. And just barely 3 months after starting his commodity trading business, he paid off this debt of $3,000 to his uncle. After doing the same business of cement and commodity selling for 20 years, in 1997, Aliko Dangote realized that most times, acting as a middleman in business can be very costly. What if his cement or rice suppliers in Thailand decided to cut him off? Meaning the 20 years of suffering and building his business would be in vain. So he decided to set up a production plant for the commodity aspect of his business, as there was high demand for them back then. The setting up of this commodity factory in the late 1990s was Aliko Dangote's first foray into setting up a production plant in Nigeria, and this was about to be the norm. In 2000, due to the boom in the cement aspect of his business, Aliko Dangote decided to get into the cement production business, and he did this by acquiring Benno Cement Company from the federal government of Nigeria, and then acquiring Obajana Cement PLC in 2002 from the Kogi State government in Nigeria. You may think that he was going to stop there, but well, that's not the case. He went further to rebrand the Obajana Cement PLC that he acquired to Dangote Cement PLC, then expanded its operation in 2005 by constructing a multi-million-dollar manufacturing plant. The construction was financed with $390 million of Dangote's own money. in addition to a $479 million loan from the International Finance Corporation, a sister organization to the World Bank. This significant loan from the IFC played a pivotal role in putting Dangote's name in the limelight as a credible business person for financing large-scale projects like the construction of his cement factory in Africa. In fact, Dangote's cement factory construction became a prime example of how African entrepreneurs could garner support from reputable global financial institutions. The successful execution of the project further solidified Dangote's standing as a reliable figure for obtaining funding and carrying out ambitious business ventures in Africa. After the successful execution of the cement factory, Uncle Aliko set his eye on another industry that was printing millionaires in Africa, which was the oil and gas sector. As in every industry where there is a lot of money to be made, there are also a lot of people to compete with. And if you know Aliko Dangote very well, you will know that he does not like competition. So when he decided to get into the oil and gas sector, he wanted to do something that no one would have the ability to do. After all, there was a lot of upside if he went the extra mile. Nigeria, which had an abundance of crude oil, only had 4 semi-functional refineries and was spending about 32.4% of its budget subsidizing petrol, which is a byproduct of crude oil. So definitely there was a problem and also huge money to be made if he becomes the one the government pays this subsidy to, or if he also becomes the key supplier of petrol or other byproducts of crude oil in the country. Recognizing this opportunity, Dangote strategically announced his plans to construct a refinery in Ondo State. And as I mentioned earlier, due to a lack of political will, he made the decision to relocate the refinery to Lagos State. Having the idea to build a refinery is one thing, finding a location is another thing. But then having the money to build or construct this refinery is a whole different thing, and projections are showing that the refinery is worth approximately $19 to $20 billion. And back then, when Aliko Dangote announced his plans to build this refinery, he was only worth around $16 billion. And truth be told, majority of this money was not liquid. So this makes us ask the question, how did Aliko Dangote finance building a refinery that cost $19 billion? To be able to build such a refinery, you need to be able to have experience in raising huge sums of money from investors and also having experience in building production factories. And Dangote had a track record of these two things. Don't forget, he took a $3,000 loan from his uncle and paid them back. He took a $490 million loan from the IFC to build a cement factory and successfully executed it. So raising money and building a refinery was not really going to be a problem, as he had already built the credibility and network to embark on such a project. By applying a similar strategy as he did with his successful cement plant, Dangote utilized a combination of equity investment and debt finance to fund the construction of the refinery. Approximately 50% of the staggering $19 billion required for the project came from Dangote's personal equity investment, demonstrating his commitment and confidence in the venture. The remaining 50% was secured through a debt finance with loans obtained from reputable institutions such as the Central Bank of Nigeria, Africa Development Bank, Standard Chartered Bank, and other prominent African banks. Now we are done with how he was able to source the money to finance the refinery. Let's explore the economic impact this refinery is poised to have. At full capacity, there will be a daily output of around 47 to 48 million liters of PMS. And it is worth noting that Nigeria spent $23.3 billion in 2022 on petroleum product imports and consumes around 33 million liters per day of petrol. So the Dangote Refinery is able to satisfy Nigeria's petrol needs and even have a surplus for export. Besides eliminating import dependency, Dangote Refinery can potentially reduce Nigeria's crude oil export dependency, as more crude oil will be refined domestically, and it is worth knowing that refining crude oil locally will enable the country pay for the refined product in naira, which will save scarce foreign exchange and generate revenue in exported refined petroleum products. In fact, the Central Bank of Nigeria has gone on to say that the Dangote Refinery could generate foreign exchange savings between $25 billion and $30 billion annually for Nigeria. The refinery's establishment is also expected to lower production costs for industries that rely on petroleum products like diesel to run their operation. This in turn will make these industries more competitive in the global market and boost local industry capabilities. Furthermore, the refinery would save Nigeria a huge chunk of the over 300 billion naira is spent importing bitumen binders, which is also a byproduct of crude oil, as it is also used for the construction of roads. As we answer the question of the economic impact of the Dangote Refinery, one question will likely be on your mind, and that is, how would the refinery impact we Nigerians or the people of Africa directly? With the cost of fuel reduced from its current price to something even lower? Well, before answering that question, it is worth noting that the unemployment rate in Nigeria is expected to hit 40.6% during the course of 2023. And many news sources and experts have said that the refinery would create over 100,000 jobs for Nigerians, which is actually a positive, welcomed development. Moving over to the big question of, would fuel prices reduce with the building of the refinery? Well, the answer is a big no, and here is why. Though situated in Nigeria, there are high chances that Dangote would likely not collect his refined petroleum products money in Naira, as his loans, or you can say his costs, are in US dollars. Furthermore, from the looks of things, it seems that Dangote has more intentions to export his oil rather than just sell to Nigerians, because technically Dangote Refinery is situated outside Nigeria, as it is located at an export processing zone with a deep sea port. These deep sea ports indicate that the refined products produced by Dangote Refinery will be transported from this port to international destinations via ships, signifying the refinery's focus on exporting refined petroleum products rather than only catering to the domestic demand. It is important to note that Dangote Refinery is a private company and not a charity organization, so its number one priority is to maximize profit for investors. And with the backlog of costs that they have on their neck, they would be weighing their options and trying to understand if exporting to international markets would be of more profit to them or selling locally. Overall, the next 6 months will be an eye-opener for Nigeria and Africa at large on the economic impact the Dangote Refinery would have on the continent. If you enjoyed this video, I have another one where I break down the debt crisis in Nigeria. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and see you on the next one. Deal.